Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Welcome to Navtastic, podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Mr. Fernandes, and
I'm Chris Jayawardena. Hello.
And Rocky and I will be bringing you Survival Test, one of a season 5 episode of Laverne Shirley. Story by Richard Gurman, teleplay by Roger Guerin and Al Eidichman, and directed by Joel Zwick. Of course, he'll have some facts about them coming up later on in the podcast. Here's what the episode's about. As the episode opens, the girls are getting ready to parachute drop into the wilderness. We flash back to find out why. It turns out the girls' army commander, Sergeant Alvinia Plout, turned up at their apartment for a surprise visit after her return from Greenland, telling them that her quest to prove that the WACs are just as good as army men by setting the girls up to compete in a survival test with 5 teens, including a couple of sexist army guys. The girls found themselves starving and cold in the mountains and put up with the behavior of one very sexist jerk on the ground. Will they give in to their hunger pangs, or will they do Sergeant Plout proud? What do you think of this one?
It's very much a Looney Tunes cartoon one, but
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, I guess what it is I like the message of the conclusion, and I love the Plout stuff. But this is going to be an interesting one to unpack.
This isn't my absolute favorite Plout episode. Ironically, that one I'm pretty sure that one's season 8, though there is a really terrific one that happens when she tracks the girls down in California. And it's hilarious to find out how Sergeant Plout moonlights. It's just great. Let's give an immediate shout out to how awesome Vicki is.
Yes.
Yay,
oh,
Vicki!
yes. Vicki! Woo!
Sergeant Plout I love because she is utterly and wholeheartedly determined to freaking get some respect put on her name and on all women in the Army. We can have mixed feelings about the American Army. Obviously, I do. Everybody does. A lot of people would rather not. But
It's one
her
of those...
determination... Sorry, go ahead.
No. Please. You're continuing a point about Plout. Go ahead.
Her determination to get the women in her command to be seen as just as good as the guys is terrific.
For this episode, I decided to do a little bit of research about the Women's Army Corps, about the WACs, and this, and particularly try to figure out where were they at the time the episode was made, and also at the time when this was set. So, for those that don't know about the Women's Army Corps, they originally started as the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps in 1942. They moved to actual active duty in 43, and when they did so, it was a non-combative role, but they were highly praised, and there were some of them that actually, like as officers, rose to incredibly high ranks, and there were a lot of like engineers and technical side, through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, even through the 70s. They, yes, they did send some of them over to Vietnam, and the WACs was basically disbanded in 78 and was integrated into male units. So that moved them actually into, kind of preparing for combat operations, which my understanding was like the first major conflict the United States got into that they were involved with was, I think, Desert Storm, I believe. And so things of that nature. Now, what's cool about Plout, and this is just to kind of, again, go into what you're talking about, just the determination to show them as confident. So in the 60s, to see a woman in the Women's Army Corps trying to get this type of respect, even though there were many women that held positions of respect within the Women's Army Corps already, and there were many male counterparts that looked at them as equals, just because it's like, you do the job, you do the job well, I don't care what you are. As we said, we have mixed feelings about it, but the idea is like the ideal, right? The ideal of a certain level of determination, you have a task and you do it successfully. And it's, so the catch is obviously is that basically even the training operations in the Army now probably would have been improbable. Probably wouldn't have been likely, just because of the fact that, that it would have taken a lot of clout from Plout to pull something like that off. The survival test probably could have been done, but at the very least, just the timing of it was interesting, like to look into that and to see that they were already starting to integrate at the time this episode was being shot. And so that is kind of, it's pretty significant. But yeah, definitely it's for anyone who's interested about like kind of history of women in the military. It's a very it's a good one to look into just because there's some interesting stories. There's some sad stuff too. The 90s was pretty rough.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Aberdeen scandal and stuff like that. But yeah, it's yeah, Plout is fantastic in this episode though, because as we see, I love how she believes in the girls. When we get that flashback to show her kind of crashing in on their day, pretty much like a day off, practically. Like they're just, they're just hanging out and doing their thing. They're making gingerbread cookies. And
one of them's going through gingerbread puberty.
I love that line so much. Because I would have done that sort of stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
But man, her belief in them is so inspiring because it's the show never tries to say it's unfounded.
Yeah. Even Sergeant Plout is trying to make her dreams come true.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Like, ultimately, she's not a bad person because she's trying to push the girls. She's not a bad person. She's just trying to prove that she is as good as the person next to her. And in the early 60s, that's incredibly hard to prove. We are pre-women's movement. We are pre a lot of stuff. And her quest is incredibly hard to pull off at the time period she's living in.
But yeah, it's really cool, and I love the way that she bonds with them a little bit here as well. Like the it's like, don't be wrong, I nothing against the man. I still I find times I love the masculine touch once in a while.
I too have known the need for a masculine touch.
That's it. Yeah.
Love her.
I can recall a certain supply sergeant. Well, that was just a brief and brutal flame.
Brutal? Laverne gets really excited by the brutal there.
Oh God! Well, the implications is that it's a good rogering, yeah.
She's intrigued. She's very intrigued. You got pictures? Slides.
Oh yeah, because I love the implication of that. Because slides means that those were not photos meant to be developed.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, she got to see the full Dr. Manhattan there.
Yeah. I was gonna say. So Sergeant Plout took pictures of this guy's full dangle and tackle here, and she has them still somewhere.
I just love that.
Amazing, and I love the way Vicki delivers that whole line. She's brilliant as heck in this.
Mm-hmm.
A whack is more than the paprika on the deviled eggs of the United States Army. Love her.
Love her. Yeah, it's so good.
Love her. Of course, the girls agree to do this. They immediately regret agreeing to do this. Laverne ends up with monkey nerves, and literally has to be calmed down with a banana.
Mm-hmm. Even though she's still she's still sitting up, like on the back of the chair.
Yeah. And with that, God, when you watch scenes like this, remember that according to Penny's autobiography and several interviews she's given, and several interviews of staff members who were working on the show at the time, Penny was going through bouts of hysterical blindness this week.
Wow.
They filmed this.
Oh, wow. That's right. This is that one.
Yeah. Yes, this is the episode. She was in the middle of divorcing Rob Reiner at the time. So the pressure of everything happening with the show declining and everybody looking at them going, why is it declining? And trying to deal with getting the show back on track. Plus, her personal life becoming difficult all at once just, gave her hysterical blindness. And Cindy was a huge help. She would lead her around the set to her marks. So that's how strong their friendship could be. Even when they were fighting each other over little minor things. She really stepped up when Penny went into crisis during the taping of this episode. During the taping week of this episode.
Definitely sounds like that's the case, yeah.
Penny resultantly did not like this episode when asked about it years later. That's one of the reasons why. I will say that the intense monkey nurse feels a little bit out of character for Laverne because most of the time she's kind of fearless when it comes to this stuff. But then again, heights. She has been a little bit afraid of heights before.
Yeah, and specifically the fear of flying.
Yeah. Yes, and the fear of flying is a good point. That's a good point. I suppose her laying the plane didn't completely cure her of that. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, and that's also the thing. She's no longer in control. I think the aspect of how well can she adjust to things that when she's being hit with a bunch of them all at once? She's never parachuted before. She's never jumped out of a plane before. She's not been in a military plane like this before. Like, I think it's just layer after layer, basically. And I mean, I remarked to my mom when we were watching this that I did find it interesting that, to be honest, like, the terrain is going to be more intense and what you're going to go into is more intense, but the skydiving part is actually the least terrifying to me out of a parachute. The parachute part is the least, being airdropped is the least concerning because you have a hook. You jump out and, it's either going to pull it on its own and it's going to pull as soon as you jump out, or if you realize it has been pulled and you don't feel it, you're going to have a secondary string that you can pull. So I'm not too concerned. Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that. Even by 1960, it was much, much safer. So... but that being said, I mean, they are jumping into cliffhangers. So, I mean, hence the Gabe Walker, Sylvester Stallone voice I did earlier.
Yeah. I was like, I know that's why he's doing this voice. So I'm just going to let him go for it.
Oh, man.
Shirley's parachute has blood on it, or seems to have blood on it.
Yeah.
So that's scary.
Yeah.
Dark. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to look up, I'm going to look up, I mean, we'll keep talking about this. I'm going to look up the Paramount Picture films from this time and see if there is a war movie that was made around that time that they'd snagged may have snagged the gear from. That they like, did they, because like, I could see it if it was, say, because I mean, they just shot a Bridge Too Far around this time, right? Around the late 70s?
Yes.
I mean, I can figure that would be, a place to get, surplus. I mean, they had to make so many things for that. So many costumes, outfits had to be prepped for that shoot. So, but I was just thinking, is it from Paramount or did they get it from somewhere else? Oh, The Duelist came out around this time. I'm still looking at the list. Oh, there's Orca. All right, sorry, distracted. But yeah, I noticed how, like, I was like, why is there blood? Why is there blood there?
Yeah. Army surplus. That's all I gotta say is Army surplus.
That just raises even more questions and concerns in the process.
All you gotta do is just fix a couple of things if it tears and just pass it on to the next person.
Yeah, I suppose
it's not like they're hiding much.
Wait, Paramount was the U.S. distributor for Emmanuel too? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I did not. The things I didn't know.
The fact that Shirley brings Boo Boo Kitty with her on this trip.
Oh my god, that's so cute. It's so cute.
It is very her. I love that, Shirley's just gung-ho. We're has to be pushed into it. They both jump out of the plane. They manage to make it to ground. They get tangled up in a tree, but they manage to make it to the ground. And I love that Shirley digs into her pack for Boo Boo Kitty and goes, "Go frolic."
Yes. It's a winter wonderland. Go frolic. And chucks him.
Chucks her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we haven't gotten a final say on that. But yeah, so then they proceed to attempt to try to make Plout as proud as the mother of a 10-pound potato.
Yes. And then Plout throws them their food rations and throws them their supplies, and food ends up in the river.
Along with the tent poles, which So this is where kind of one of the weaknesses of the episode kind of comes in for me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of trouble buying that because I can see having multiple care packages being given and supply drops, for this type of test. I can totally see that. I understand. But it felt illogical that that they would separate certain supplies and compartmentalize them like that, because I could see, because the probability, especially by this point, many airdrops having been done for supply runs, within the military history by this point, who in their right mind is going to separate the food into one single thing so that if you lose that thing, you've dropped your guys, your soldiers into the field without the proper food or shelter making materials or whatever. I mean, it just I don't know. It irks me a lot. It's a cartoon, I get it, but
I feel like it's kind of ridiculous that they pack the tent poles in with the food. That makes no real actual sense. It should be with the rest of the tent.
I agree.
So it's just like trying to make things more difficult for them. I get why they're trying to quote unquote make things more difficult for them, so we feel their struggle and that they get to triumph in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bit much. It's a little bit unreal. Even for the show, it's a little bit unrealistic. And then, of course, Shirley decides that they will forage and they live off of bark and I guess snow for water. I'm presuming they melt there. I think they say that. No, they don't say they melt snow. But I'm presuming that's what they're doing for water.
Right. Yeah. And oh god, did the bark give you guinea pigs flashbacks?
Yeah. Yeah. Name one famous bark eater.
Ed Woody Flugelman.
And then the girls, of course, are suffering because the guys have their food. The guys actually have their tent poles. They're being assholes and doing it deliberately down lame so they can sell the bacon.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then Laverne has a fantasy in which the boys arrive in their mind. They're in food.
Yes.
Yeah, and a turkey, a giant turkey, offering her a turkey.
You're starving, Laverne.
Right up your nose hole.
This bird really smells. Oh, God.
Why is Lenny wearing shorts in Laverne's fantasy?
Okay.
He should be wearing shorts.
She has not been able to get out of her mind the moment a few episodes prior when he said, "You could have said nice legs, Len."
Nice bod, because a nice body, Len. Yeah, but for some reason, I don't even think that this is Squiggy in his normal outfit. Is he wearing shorts too? Is he wearing anything particularly summery?
I'm pretty sure he's wearing shorts. I'm pretty sure he's wearing shorts. Let me just see if I can double check. But yeah, go ahead and keep talking though. Yeah.
And of course, the girls have to pretend that they're eating bark jerky. Shirley ends up with snow in her bra, and they have to dig out. And of course, they have an avalanche, and of course, the sexist jerk who's been absolutely cruel to them.
Yeah, got one word. Yeah, got one word for you girls. Ha!
Ha!
Kind of echoes, and gotta listen to your voice all day. When the avalanche came up, my note is Mia Farrow, Robert Forster. No.
Gosh, I haven't seen Avalanche in the longest time too. The longest time.
I think my dad said he saw that either in Malawi, Africa, or when he just came to America. I can't remember.
One or the other. That's a heck of a way to be welcome to America. Little about Avalanche.
I mean, it would have been one of the first movies. He remembers the first movie. I just don't. I can't personally remember what the first movie was. I know it's not Avalanche. Anyway, yeah, the whole snow scene is interesting because it felt like a little bit of padding because it takes so long for them to climb out.
Yep. And then, of course, they have to get all the snow off this guy. They do choose to save this guy, even though he's been a dick to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, I don't know if I would save him. I'm sure I would.
Well, here is the thing to always remember, and this again comes back to the whole soldier aspect of this. Everything I've heard is that when it comes to training, you have to always remember that the people you're training with, no matter how much of a terrible person they can be to you, that you have to create a situation that when the shit hits the fan, they are going to either take a bullet for you or kill the guy that's going to take your life. Yeah. And because those are the people you rely on to get you back home.
Yeah.
Is it obvious that I watch a lot of war movies?
Yeah. No shame.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and but that being said, I mean, it's like the only, I'm fine, get away from me. My leg might be broken, but only in a couple places. What's it to you? And I just have to quote a certain bit from Baywatch that I know Allison likes to use. Yeah, you know which one I'm gonna say. Yeah, the male ego is a disease.
God, that is a great clip.
Yeah.
And just think about how often Mitch Buchanan is ruled by his ego. So yeah, it's perfect. It's perfectly well picked.
And when it comes to this whole kind of review, the turn of the episode, where I mean he's not going to allow it to flare. It's like, what are you, crazy? Penny's line delivery and the line itself is just, I really like the exchange. Like, this is where this takes it up a little bit of a notch for me, just because I like the way that this concludes, where they technically win. Do they win the test? No, but they did the thing that in the real field, this is exactly the type of thing you have to do, that you sometimes have to, and that's the type of action that makes you like go up the ranks. because you understand the value of the people that are with you, and you know that that's more important than the mission.
Yeah, in the end, you have to save your fellow man on the side of which you're on when you're in the field like that. So yeah, he does. They do the right thing in the end. They do the right thing in the end.
Yeah, I love that line. I think it's from Shirley. Boy, I don't know why we care that you live or die, but I'm just glad that we do.
God, sad. We really think about it. Just glad we die. Hallelujah, we die.
Yeah.
Man.
And and I just the whole my note is America about him. It's like you don't quit, you're gonna die, but I won't lose. And that is what's the thing, the poke gouge an eye to smite your face or something like that. I can't remember.
Spite your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. So, yeah. By the way, we see the snowman they've built in the back when it pans over, and I was maybe just too busy making notes while other parts of the episode were going on. Do we see anything else of that snowman other than panning over and noticing they've made it?
Nope. I'm wondering if something got cut out in the DVD version. I think it's possible it was.
I'm wondering too.
And of course, they end up back on the plane. Sergeant Plout was proud of them, and they're proud of each other. And when they are told they're flying over a pancake house, they parachute down.
Yeah, I think we're getting back to civilization. I think I can see the orange roof of a Howard Johnson's.
Yeah. Considering how many flavors of ice cream they had, I would parachute down there too.
Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
No.
I have not. I know a few people who have.
Yeah. It's like, it's like, it's not worth it for me. Splattering my head across the great cemented plains is not worth it for me.
You've watched skydivers too many times. That's totally fair.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else to say about this one because it is so. It's just mostly a showcase for how much I freaking love Vicki Lawrence.
Yeah.
How much do I freaking love Vicki Lawrence? I love her in this episode. I love her the way she brings Plout to life. The way she makes Plout a wholly believable soldier who's tough and yet tender and is just ultimately looking for some other women like her who believe in what she believes.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, that is what this episode is about. It's the best part of the episode, even beyond the girls trying to live and not die.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, these are good points. I'm bored by a lot of this episode, I'm sad to say. Plout notwithstanding. But I guess that's the thing. The highlights of Plout I really like. I like the themes of it, but there are many of those kind of weird, like it feels very Looney Tunes cartoon. Like the way it's very episodic, it's very vignette style. It's a premise that doesn't feel like it's really taken the way it can. And as we've mentioned, this was a very rough shoot. This is a rough time in Penny's life. This was kind of one of those you just had to get it done kind of situations. And and for all that considered, it's a pretty polished episode. You have a really good set. I mean, it's a really, really, really outdoor set. That was really, really well done. They're still trying. Like we've mentioned, season 5 was such a ratings disaster and they were trying to get things back on track. And this is still making that effort, but from a writing and just kind of a structure, like what does it bring to the table as a show, engaging us with these characters? It's got Plout, it's got the victory they make at the end, and not much else. And so that's kind of where I land there. So yeah, I mean, it's like there's not really much to say about Vicki. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like even towards Gary Epp, who plays Lou Duff, the sexist prick. I mean, he had a nice little 20-year stint working in TV and movies, but there really isn't a lot to mention. I mean, he got a role in he got different roles on Happy Days, including They Shoot Funsies, Don't They, as Bubba.
Yeah.
He's in Married the first year he was in that. He was in an episode of Soap, an episode of Joni Loves Chachi, poor bastard.
Ha!
O'Hara with Pat Morita, New Leave It to Beaver, etc. I mean, his last appearance as an actor was in The Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas, which the only reason I mentioned that is because it was definitely not on my bingo card for name drops for this podcast, like ever. But like even like from a writing thing, like we've talked a lot about Al Idekman and Roger Garrett, and we don't have a lot more to say, and they have more episodes ahead. So I mean, focusing on Richard, story by credit in this episode, it was his only time working on Laverne and Shirley. He primarily worked on Happy Days, was later a creative consultant on Married with Children. He worked as a writer on Different Strokes, along with other Marshallverse alumni. Dog with a Blog, Home Free. I mean, like the cool thing to even mention, like in terms of like, where did anybody go after this? Obviously, Vicki Lawrence, had an amazing career. But Richard Gurman, the person who kind of came up with the basic premise and kind of ideas of this episode, he was a producer on many of the same shows that he worked on in the 80s and 90s and the 2000s. But he also was a producer on the Happy Days of Gary Marshall doc from 2020. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like one of those middling ones. It's like one of those middling ones where the performances are funny enough to make you go, aha. But it's not like iconic or memorable or even something you revisit frequently.
It does have the poor unfortunate downside of coming after like one of the best two-parters of the series, like some of the best material the show ever did.
Exactly. And then it's the next episode is it's kind of weak, but ultimately the season finishes out incredibly strongly with some really iconic episodes. Really iconic.
That's good. Yeah. So anyway, so for survival test, we're talking about middling. Where are we going with ranking for this one?
It's about 5 for me. It's right mid-level. Nothing offensive about it. Some great Vicki Lawrence stuff. A couple of funny sight gags. It's not like incredibly memorable or necessary to canon. It's just like it's a good, okay, fluff episode.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I wanted to give it like a 6 or a 6.5 just for the themes, but it doesn't reinforce them enough. So maybe a 5.5. I'll go a little higher just because, like I said, I really like the ending. Like I really, really like the ending. I love the callback of them jumping out to the Howard Johnsons. That's great. Just the visual in my mind of them landing in the parking lot of a Howard Johnson's in these parachutes is adorable. And I want that.
Yeah. Same. Then they run in, they grab their pancakes, and they have their big old breakfast and finish it off with some ice cream.
And they realize they don't have any money on them, and I don't know, maybe it turns out like the cook served or something, and like salute, gives them a salute, like
Exactly.
Or the waitress is a washout from their former crew. From one of the from like Blue Team, to someone who just was like, the life wasn't for me, and I got kids and I'm working, and all that, and having a nice little life working at a Howard Johnson's, and I'm giving you get it's on the house. Yeah,
exactly. And everybody gets to have pancakes, and it is good.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, it's just one of those okay ones.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, It was like me watching It was like me watching Everly a few weeks ago. Like, it was good. It was good.
Okay. That was an experience. Yeah, it's a mid-leveler.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's all for today, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks again, everybody, so much for joining us for Night After Night. And if you'd like to know some more, join us Night After Night. You find us on the Facebook. Darling. And anyway, so we can be found at Night After Night Pod or Night After Night PC on Twitter, or Night After Night Pod on most of the other places. Please do take a look at our Patreon. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, leave us a little star ranking on our Apple or wherever you get your podcast from. And please, definitely, we would love to have more folks in the fandom reach out and chat with us, because that's always nice. So, I don't know. 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 what do we got next?
Well, let's put it this way. Laverne's hunky Italian cousin comes to America, and he decides he wants to become a zookeeper. And there's a bear. It is a very interesting episode in a lot of ways, some of them not flattering. This is Antonio the Amazing.
I can barely believe we're finally doing an episode with a bear. I can barely believe it.
Yep, finally a live bear. We got a live skunk, now we got a live bear.
Mm. And we had the kittens, the boob grabbing kittens.
Yes, the kittens. Yep, the kittens and the pups from
the pups and dog show. Oh,
yeah, dog show.
Oh, that was so nice. All right. Anyway, thanks again. Hope everybody will join us for next time, and I guess we'll see you, listen to you, and serenade inside your ear next time.
Please listen to us night after night, and don't eat bark.
Yeah, unless it's actually stage jerky, which it clearly was in this episode.
Yeah, if it's hickory smoked bark, then it's fine. Okay, y'all.
Me and you